So last week we talked about saying yes and the power of being able to say yes to your life and how that expands us and opens us to the possibilities of life. So our knee-jerk, no, that's not for me, is not helpful when our idea is to expand, when our idea is to grow in those ways. This week we're talking about no, which is also important. Jesus said, let your yeas be yeas and your nays be nays. What did he mean by that? Well, I think first of all, it's like you get to say both. You don't only say yes. You use some discernment when you decide what you're going to say. It also means, to me, just say yes and just say no. You don't have to go into a long explanation. You may have heard in 12-step they say, no is a complete sentence. No. So, yes, which we talked about last week, saying yes does not mean yes to what someone else wants you to do. Yes does not mean doing it for someone again and again and again when they are perfectly capable of doing it for themselves. Yes does not mean extending yourself beyond your ability to feel good and healthy and okay in order to make someone else feel good and healthy and okay. That's not what yes is for. That's not a good use of yes. And there are some very good uses of no, right? A yes is never something that will violate your values or your boundaries. That is always a no. A yes does not mean become a doormat. It does not mean become a martyr. It does not mean overcommitment. It does not mean addiction. Those are things that we need the power of no that Chris Chenoweth so beautifully talked about in the reading this morning. We need that power of no as much as we need the power of yes. They are the yin and yang to one another. Neither one exists without the other, and they both have to be considered at all times. So, I have a magnet on my refrigerator that's been there for more than 10 years. And occasionally I read it and go, oh yeah. It says, stress is what happens when your gut says no and your mouth says, sure, I'd be glad to. Amen. Yeah. Ring a bell for anybody? Yes, why am I nodding? I don't want to do this. Yeah. So, part of saying no is saying no so that we can say yes. Saying no to what does not serve so that we clear the space for what does serve. And in Unity and New Thought, we call that denials and affirmations. We deny something so that there is space to affirm something, to affirm its polarity. So that song, I am not weak, I am strong. I am not helpless. I have power. I am not fear. I have and am courage. I am not judgment. I am discernment. I am whole. I am worthy. Those are the no's to get to the yeses. And so when we talk about denials and unity, that word is really, really fraught because the word denial, oh, you're in denial. That's not a good thing, right? To be in denial. And no, that's not what a no is for. A no is not to try to negate reality. It is not to argue with what is. Nope, that's not happening. I don't see it, so it's not happening. Believe me, I've lived a lot of my life that way. As a child of, a wife of, a sister of, a niece of alcoholics, I got real practice in being in denial. Everything's fine. Everything's just fine. It is fine. It's fine. That's not the denial that I'm talking about. I'm talking about to negate whatever it is, not to negate its existence, but to negate its power over you. Right? This is reality, and I have choices within that reality. This is what's happening, and I get to choose how I meet that, right? It doesn't determine for me. So negating what has power over you so that you can affirm your spiritual truth. I am not weak. I am strong. Both of those. And sometimes we have to get out of our feeling of being weakness in order to say, I am strong. That's really all that is. So, it's not denial of reality. It's not, no, this is not happening. That is not helpful. It is never helpful. Say no to self-delusion. Say no to, I'm just going to see what I want to see and not bother with the rest. Because what you don't see will come up and bite you on the rear end sometimes. So yes, I see it, and I choose to not allow it to have power over me. And this becomes us learning how to deal with life as it is, life on its own terms. Accept the current premise. Yes, this is what's happening. And then add to it, right? Not this is not happening, but this is happening, and here's where I have control. And most of the time, or at least a good deal of the time, the only place we have control is our own mind, our own attitude. And yet, changing our attitude over what is can change the entire situation. Changing your attitude in a relationship can change the entire relationship. If you don't show up the way you've always shown up, then the relationship changes. Whether the other person does anything different or not, the relationship changes. The nature of the relationship changes. Your power in the relationship changes when you choose to exercise it. So, you're saying yes and no. Yes to whatever is happening. Yep, I'm not going to fight with this anymore. This seems to be the truth. And then, what will I do about it? I'm not going to let it have power over me. There's the no. And then another yes. What am I going to do about it? And no is not about deprivation. It's not depriving yourself of something that you want or need. It's not depriving another of what you want or need. No is used that way a lot in our world. No, can't have it. I know that I have a voice in me that when really, really good things happen, I hear this default voice that says, won't last. You're not allowed to have it. Luckily, over the years, I have trained myself to hear that voice rather than to just follow it, rather than to just set my attitude around it and go through life that way. Because I tell you what, if you think it's good and you know you can't have it, then you won't accept it. You won't be able to receive it. Or you receive it and you won't be able to hold on to it. And so I just noticed that, oh, this good thing is happening. Why is it that I think I can't have it? Maybe I can have it. Maybe it's for me. And then I can pray a prayer like, God, if this is mine, I want it. I cheerfully receive it. I accept the gift. And if it's not mine, then I cheerfully release it to be whoever's it is. I've shared before in this place that I got a lot of no's. And when I first graduated from seminary, I got a yes, and then that kind of turned into a no because it was a huge commute. It was a 4-hour commute, and it just wasn't working. It was a clear no, this isn't working. And then I got a couple of other, we really want you. Oh, never mind. And I won't say it didn't hurt. I won't say that I didn't get like, what's happening? You know, you told me to go to seminary. Aren't you going to give me a job? You know, there was that there. And yet this prayer that I prayed over and over again, every time I went in for an interview, every time I filled out an application, my prayer was this: God, if it's my job, I want it. And if it's not my job, that means it's someone else's. And so I pray for them to have it. It's amazing. If you go through life like that, if it's not meant to be mine, I'm not going to hold on to it. I'm not going to demand it. It means it's meant to be someone else's. Yay! They get to follow their good. They get to have what's good for them. And what's good for me is out there. And my prayer was either I'm being prepared for it or it's being prepared for me. And that turned out to be true. And there was a big yes coming, and I had to wait for it because y'all weren't ready yet. So it's not deprivation. The deprivation model does not work. Ram Dass says that. The deprivation model does not work. If you're just depriving yourself so you can say you've deprived yourself, then you're going to bust sooner or later. It's not going to work for you. So it's like, well, I'm going to meditate because I'm going to make myself meditate, so I'm going to not do all the other things I want to do so I can sit here and be quiet. That's not going to last for long. If you want to have quiet in your life, yes, you need to use some discipline, but also you need to follow your guidance. What am I being called to? And if I'm not being called to it, then is there some way I need to get ready for it? If it's something that I think I want, but I'm still not being called, maybe there's something I need to do to get ready for it. But this idea of just depriving oneself for the sake of depriving oneself. Ever been forced yourself to go on a diet? Right? Until you're ready to change your lifestyle, not just to change the number on the scale, but to change what you're doing in your life, that deprivation model doesn't work. It just makes you want it more. And saying no when you mean, or saying yes when you mean no is a recipe for anxiety, resentment, and martyrdom. Oh. Everybody makes me do it. I had to do it. It was my job. I had to do it. Who accepted the job? Oh, I did. Yeah. And who said it had to be done to this level? Oh, that was me again. And who said no to other people asking to help me? Oh, I did that. But it's all on me. Yeah? Ever done that before? No, never, never, never. So no clears the way for what is really a yes, so that we don't spend our lives doing what is not ours to do. Imagine if you look back and you realize you spent your whole life doing what was someone else's to do, and you never got around to your own true purpose. You never got around to the meaning of your life. You made your meaning making him happy and her happy and them happy. And let me tell you what, when you're turning yourself inside out to make them happy, it's not working. Because if people are demanding that of you, it's a hungry ghost. It's never going to be enough. It's never going to be enough. So no clears the way for yes. And it's not about a yes that is capitulation or resignation. That's not what we're talking about. It's not about the lack of confidence to say no. It's, yes, we get to say no to abuse. We get to say no to neglect. We get to say no to staying in a relationship that does not serve both of us. Because if it's only serving one person, that's not a relationship. That's a one-sided relationship. So when you're in those situations, you not only have a right to say no, you have a right at any time to say no. But when you're in those situations, you not only have a right, you have, I would say, a duty to say no. You know, the Dalai Lama is very clear when he talks about kindness, when he talks about compassion, that it doesn't mean you ever let anyone else abuse you. And he says, no. Here's the deal. When you stand there and allow them to abuse you, you're not only harming yourself, you're allowing them to harm themselves. Because handing out abuse to another person is not good for our souls. So you're basically letting them exercise something that you know is not good for their soul. And so saying, whoops, nope, I will not be here for this. I will not be here for this. You can't say, don't do that, because they're going to do it if they want to. But you can say, I will not stand for this. And literally meaning, I will not stand here while this is going on. And that, folks, is called a boundary. And that is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing you'll ever learn in your life, is how to have appropriate boundaries. It took me many, 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 many years. Counseling, 12-step programs, and therapists saying, here's this book, you should read it. It's called Boundaries. Here's this tape, you should watch it. It's called Boundaries. Attend this class. It's called How to Have Boundaries. And I was like, yeah, I read all about it. I could define for you what a boundary was. I had no idea what a boundary was until someone used one on me. And a boundary is not, no, get out of here. No, that's a wall and a command. You can't make someone get out, but you can say, no, I'm leaving. Can't make them get out, but you can leave, right? You can, if it's a boundary, it is done with love, not with a flamethrower, right? Yeah. Then you become an abuser. And when you use your no in that way, but when you use your no and stay in love, and that's the thing that I want to talk about most today, is how to say no and not put anyone out of your heart. Not put anyone out of your heart. So I had, in a 12-step program that I had a mentor or a sponsor, and I called her basically when I was completely, my hair was on fire in some way. Everything was falling apart. I didn't call her in good times. Everything was falling apart. I need to talk to you. And sometimes I would call her, and she would say, well, if you'll remember, Melinda, Thursday is the day that I spend with my grandson, Travis. So you can call me in the morning at, say, 10 o'clock. And I would go, doesn't she realize I'm in pain here? I need her. She can tell her grandson to go watch TV for a few minutes. That won't hurt. And so there was anger, and there was this feeling of great hurt. Like, don't you understand? I'm in pain here. Now, aren't you here to help me? Isn't that what you're here for? And then I would think, she doesn't love me. She doesn't really care about me. She doesn't love me. But then again, everything that she did in our time together showed me that she actually did esteem me and value me highly and love me. And it was like, oh, she loves me, but she said no to me. She loves me, but she said no to me. She loves me, but she said no. She loves me. You can love someone and say no? It was a huge revelation to me, because the way I had been brought up, the way I had reacted to the way I had been brought up, let's put this back on me, was that I wanted to keep everybody happy because it seemed dangerous when they weren't. And so I never said no. I always figured out how to make a yes work. And I turned myself inside out for others. And I thought that's the way you love. You turn yourself inside out for others. That's not the way you love. And by the way, that wasn't real love on my part, because I was making bargains. I'm going to make you happy, and then you better treat me right. Right? They didn't sign that contract. That was all me. That was all me. So getting this clear in my mind, how to have a boundary, how to say no, and keep the love. Because what we tend to do is we like to go into judgment, because that makes it more comfortable to say no. To say no and love somebody is kind of hard. It's easier to go, no, because you're a jerk. Then it's a lot easier to say that no. You get to just like shove them out a little further from you. And we like to punish. When we need to, we associate no with some kind of punishment, right? And so we have to find them guilty first before we can punish them with a no. And we have to find ourselves guilty often so that we can punish ourselves with a no. And what if nobody was guilty? What if there was only love and an appropriate time to say no to things? I love this. This is a quote by Lawrence Durrell. Guilt always hurries toward its complement, punishment. Only there does its satisfaction lie. So the moment you declare guilt, whether it's you feeling guilty or declaring someone else is guilty, immediately upon that, well, how am I going to be punished? How are they going to be punished? How am I going to punish them? So can we, this is the question, find our discernment for when to say no and not have to build a case against whoever it is so that we can find a guilty verdict, so that we can be more comfortable saying no? We say no in harmful ways because we don't know how to stay open while we say no. And we were taught this by our parents, y'all. Wait till your father gets home. Right? This idea of, not just no, you're not allowed to do that, but no, and a stern look, and a go to your room, and I don't want you to be around me. Parents are uncomfortable saying no to a child, so they have to build a case. This child was wrong, and that was bad. And then we get that no associated with punishment and with being shoved away. Did you ever have a parent that came to you and said, "Oh, I love you so much," and the answer is no, hun? I mean, you may have. I hope you did. But that's the more rare way. I love you so much, and no, that's not going to fly. Sorry. So we have to be able to say no without meaning it personally. We have to be able to receive a no without taking it personally. That's the importance of no. Have you ever noticed that when you're really, really mad at your spouse, you're not saying, "And by the way, I love you"? Right? You don't want to say that. Don't reward them while they're being a jerk to you. Right? What if you were able to say, "I'm leaving this conversation because I love you, and I know it's not serving either one of us. So I'll be in the other room, and when you're ready, we'll talk." And by the way, you don't have to say all that. Sometimes you say all that and you sound self-righteous. That's not what we're wanting. This is how I had that person use boundaries with me, and then I learned to use them myself, and I learned to use them on my dad. And it was a miracle, because up to that point in my life, in my 40s, I believe, I thought that what was most important in the world to my father was to prove himself right. If you had asked me, I would have said, "That's it. Nope. No other. Family? No. What's most important was to prove himself right." So I'd be at his house, and he would start in on one of those things, politics or religion or, mother, father, God, what is that? He'd start in. He'd just start poking. And I started saying, rather than argue with him and get angry and get hurt and go home crying or whatever, I just started saying, "Well, you know what, Daddy? I've decided I'm not going to talk to you about that. Let's talk about something else." And he didn't buy that. He kept talking about what he was talking about, and so I would leave the room. I had already told him I wasn't going to talk about it. I didn't need to say it again, so I would leave the room. And if he followed me to the next room, then I would say, "Okay, I love you, and I'm going home now. I'll see you next time." And I would get in the car, and I would drive away. And so I trained him. You can do that if you want to, but I will not stay here while you do it. And then that's no fun anymore if the person you're arguing with isn't arguing back, and they're not present for it. And it only took a few times. And then one time I thought, here we go again. He started in on whatever it was, and I said, "Daddy, I'm not going to talk to you about that." And he said, "Okay," and he changed the subject. Now, if you didn't know my father, you don't know how impactful this is. But he changed the subject, and I went, maybe he actually values my company more than he values proving himself right in this very moment. That was the greatest gift I ever got from my father, is that realization. But I never said, "I'm not talking to you about this, I'm going home." That would have just given him more to fight against. It was always, "Well, I love you, I'll see you next time." Didn't let it go into me, didn't set up a no inside me. I just said a simple no outside me. I won't be there for that. That's a boundary. So we get to say, "No, I will not allow this. I will not stand for this. I will not do this. I will not accept this." But I still allow and love and stand for and accept and welcome you. Not the behavior of this moment, but you. I can say no to your behavior and love you. I can keep you fully in my heart. And some people won't understand. Some people just don't get boundaries. They'll just keep rolling over them no matter what. That's okay. You keep by your boundary. You keep not standing there for it. That's all you have to do, remove yourself from the situation. And some people will take a no personally no matter how lovingly it's meant, because that's their frame of mind. But that's not about you. That's you giving them an opportunity to find out things for themselves. That you don't have to work that out. And when you're truly able to say a no that you mean, I mean no. And truly able to not put the other person out of your heart, to truly esteem and welcome them, then some part of them, I promise you, some part of them will know even if they're not capable of acknowledging it in the moment or maybe even recognizing it in the moment. People know whether they're being loved and whether they're not being loved. So you saying loving words when you're really thinking you jerk doesn't do it. But you saying, nope, not going to do that, with absolute love and acceptance in your heart of who they are, they're going to get that. They're going to get that too. So, practice, that's what it takes. That's the whole deal, all of this stuff. Oh, now I know, so everything's going to be rosy from now on. No, you got to practice that no, and it's hard. It's still the hardest thing for me to do. It's not hard for me to keep loving you, but it's hard for me to say no to you. And so sometimes I'll say, well, how about later? Because that seems, and I just go later and later and later and later, and that's not helpful. That's not kind, actually, is it? It may seem nice in the moment. I didn't have to say no to you, but it's not kind, ultimately. It's not kind to myself to set myself up for that situation over and over and over again. So, yeah, it takes practice. Practice saying no and keeping your heart open, and it will change your life because you will stop running from people and situations. It will allow you to stay in a peaceful, loving place in your heart and mind. And as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, that peace of mind equals happiness. That's what happiness is the ability to meet life on its terms. So practice with an open heart. And I'm going to read you this final prayer, which is a prayer from Chris Chenoweth. Dear God, I pray for the self-empowerment of the power of the spoken word. I pray that I will say yes and live by that decision. I pray that when I say no, I will also live by that decision. Strengthen me in my resolve to communicate to myself and others the decisions of my inner self. May I walk with you. May I live on the highest path within my soul. Thank you. So we're going to take that into a short meditation. So get yourself comfortable and take those deep breaths that Bronwyn was bringing us into in our opening prayer. That pause between wherever our mind is now and the stillness that we seek. And in that place of stillness, just allow the people and situations that bug you the most to come to mind. I bet it won't take long. Just think of the evening news. And know that when we choose to argue, when we choose to stand there and allow ourselves to get upset, ourselves to be argumentative, ourselves to be full of return violence for the violence that we feel is directed toward us, that we are no longer peaceful, we are no longer happy. We are saying yes to others' behavior that we disapprove of. Why would we say yes to that? We may think we're saying no, but that's a yes when I choose to engage at that level. But when we say no, I will not allow the beauty of my own heart to be changed by the behavior or the words of another person. I will not allow my peace of mind to be stolen. And by the way, it can't be stolen. I can only give it away. I will not allow giving away my peace of mind to someone else's bad behavior, no matter how egregious I judge it to be. I will not lose lose myself in the face of that. I am not weak. I am not helpless. I am not the fear that this brings up in me. I don't have to be the judgment about it. Those are all the no's that clear us for the yes. But we have to clear to make space for that yes. And that yes is always okay. If I knew that I was love, an embodiment of divine love, an expression of divine love, which maybe I'm choosing to know in this very moment. If I knew that, what would I do? How would I respond? What is mine to do in this moment? And then we clear the way for that yes that has even a prayer of having any impact on the world other than a negative one. And that may be the most important no you ever say, is I will not allow what goes on outside of me to change who I am, to change how I behave, to change how I choose to live in my life. No. You don't get to make me angry. I choose to stay peaceful, and if there's something I can do, to negate the impact of that behavior on the world, if there's a vote I need to cast, or a call I need to make, or a march I need to march, or a letter I need to write, or simply a new way of being that I need to be so that I can express it to the people around me, so that I can't make anyone love, but love is contagious, and I can be a contagion. I can be so loving that other people might accidentally catch it from me. I have to make a no so that I can make that big yes. No to hatred, no to fear, no to resignation or capitulation, no to the fight. If someone throws a rope on your feet, it's not a tug of war until you pick it up. And so we say no to the tug of war. And so we say yes to asking ourselves, what is the most loving thing I can do here? And how can I embody that? Ultimately, it's no to fear and hatred, yes to love. And it starts within ourselves, because we find that there is that within ourselves that we push against, that we disapprove of, ways that we find ourselves guilty, that we pronounce a verdict and then we head toward the punishment phase. Well, I'm guilty, I must be punished. We say no to that. No. I can make mistakes without a guilty verdict. It's just called a mistake, and then I get to do it differently. No to punishment, no to guilt, yes to innocence, yes to second chances, yes to finding a way to be love, to live love in a world that sometimes doesn't look like love. And if I can do that, I change my world. And when I change my world, I change the world, because we are one. And so I breathe into that and resolve today to let my yeses be yeses and my no's simply be no. And let both of those words be imbued with all the love that I have to give, which is all the love that there is, because I have a direct and constant connection to the divine, the source of all love. And so I breathe that in. I note that possibility. I say yes to it. And I release it. And I give thanks for it. And so it is. Amen.